Thank you very much, Ovidiu. Like 20 minutes ago, I was checking on the presence of Bosch in Africa, and I did find out that they are actually operational present in 10 countries and commercially present probably in all of the 54 countries. While the Romanian IT is virtually present nowhere, and this is what I want to change, and this is what I think that we should change. And this is the story that I'm going to tell you in the following minutes. And I'm here in front of you, and I've written an article, and I do what I'm doing because I love Africa. And it's actually a bit even more than loving it. I have a disease. It's a disease that actually everybody that gets in the south of the Sahara catches it. It's a disease that in the medicine literature is called the mal d'Afrique. Is actually translated as the lust for Africa. Is it like once you've put a foot in Africa, in the sub-Saharan Africa, you are lusting to go back? It's like going back to a sort of origin. It's sort of something that calls you and it drags you to go back again. For me, it started in December 2008 when I started alone with a backpack in Morocco, and I went down south. And I went through Western Sahara, through Mauritania, over the Sahara, over the desert. And I'm saying I'm going as south as I can and as deep as I can. And when I'm finishing my 3 weeks vacation, I'm taking a flight home from wherever I am. I'm flying back to Europe. And I went all the way to the river Niger, to Mali, to the Dogon country, to the tribes, and I was irremediably caught by this virus. So in the next year, I knew that I had to go back, and I was looking to go back deeper, let's say more intense, more to the origin of something. And there is no other place in Africa to go deeper than in the Congo. The Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, is a country 10 times larger than Romania. It's actually in the center of Africa, and it's all covered in jungle. And it's cursed because it's very rich. It has a lot of wealth in underground, and because of it, it passed through 60 years of civil war. And even in the moment when I was there in 2009, they were still shooting in some parts of the country, and everybody was telling me not to go there because there is no infrastructure, there is no power, there is no roads, that everyone is dirt poor, that there is no hope, there nothing is building, and so on. So I could get caught, I could get shot, and so on. And even though nobody was going there, I was saying, I don't believe all the naysayers. I don't believe the ones that were writing, you know, The Heart of Darkness or The Blood River, books about Congo. Because I believe that in any place in which there are people, there should be hope. And there is drive to build. And I went there, not just to prove something for myself, that I'm great of something, but to look for what I was calling the essence of humanity. That is to go as deep as I could into, let's say, ourselves and into the humanity. And 1 month, together with a friend from Bucharest, we've passed the country from south to north, through jungles. There was no roads, hitchhiking trucks or motos, and rowing on canoes on the rivers. And we were the only white guys in 1 month. And when we arrived in like a village or a town, and we get down from wherever the truck we were in, everybody was flocking to us, to touch us, to say, okay, muzungu, muzungu, so the white man, because many of them have not seen a white man before. So they were not actually taking things from us. They were not dragging us. They were just wanting to put us somewhere to sit down, and was putting food in front of us and drinks in front of us. And well, we were worried. We said, but how much is this? And say, no. So this is from us. So you don't pay. They say, but you have to feed your 10 children. So No, we are honored because you're here. You are our guests, so nobody has come to us in the last 20 years. And we want you to tell us stories about the fascinating Europe. How is there in your country? Is it peace? I mean, do you have food to eat like all year round? How is it? So 1 month and day after day of this type of experience, I'm saying, yes, I've found out what I was looking for. I mean, the essence of humanity. I got in love much more, even more, of those people actually. Of the people that I meet, the ones that have hope, the ones that are building in those conditions. And I was dreaming from that moment that there will become a time when I will come back to Africa and do more. And not just giving biscuits or giving $2, but do more. Do something of significance for them. And year after year, I've traveled in Africa, a lot as a tourist in 15 countries plus, in the Black Africa. And I was seeing from year to year Africa changing. I was seeing roads being laid down. I was seeing buildings being constructed. I've seen many of the capitals of Africa today, skyscrapers in the center, rising up to 20 to 30 floors, something that 10 years ago was not even in their dreams. I'm seeing malls now. I'm seeing co-working spaces. I'm seeing startups. I'm seeing venture capital there. I'm seeing people who go through the education. Now most of the people go at least to the primary education. I'm seeing the mentality of the people changing. While 10 years ago, the normal people were saying to me, our wealth is our 10 children, because when they get 5, we put them to work. But now, what I'm seeing, the same type of people saying that, well, we limit to 2 or mostly 3 children, because we want them to have a future, because we want us to be able to afford to keep them in school, so they can make more in their life than we are doing ourselves. I'm seeing all this tremendous change. I'm seeing something else also. I'm seeing that are on the streets more people than there were 10 years ago. There are 1.2 billion people in Africa. The rate of growth of the population in Africa is 2.5% per year. That means that in 2015, there will be double the population, 2.5 billion people. I'm seeing countries that have doubled their population in the last 30 years, like Ethiopia from 40 million to 80 million, or Rwanda in 25 years from 6 million to 12 million. I'm seeing, I was in Uganda this year, and since I've been in the last time, in 2013, I think a strange thing on the street. It seems like people were, let's say, denser. And then I realized, because in 2013, 6 years ago, there were 33 million people in Uganda. Now they are close to 41. So in 6 years, this is the rate of expansion. And considering all these youngsters, all these people who are now getting some education are entering faster and faster into the workforce, are entering into the management, are taking the jobs of their fathers with a much better education and with a much better willing of doing more for themselves and of knowing how the world is moving around. In Nigeria alone, each year, right now, 2 million people are getting to the age in which they actually can get into the workforce market. 2 million people each year is actually the equivalent of half of everyone who is employed in Romania in the public sector. So that is the proportion. 2 million each year. In the entire Africa right now, it's 18 millions each year. After 20 years, it will be 30 million each year. So for all these people, all this power, in 2035, the workforce in Africa will actually be bigger than all the workforce combined of all the world. That is the way that actually Africa is growing. Well, it's growing in terms of population, of course. But we're seeing growth in terms of the GDP, of the net GDP, of 7%, of 8% yearly. That is quite substantial considering that the advanced economies, like Germany, France, and so on, are growing at 2-3% each year. However, taking the discrepancy in between the growth of the population and the demand of this population and the growth of the economy is much too slow at that level. And the systemic problems, while this extreme opportunity in all this capacity, is also a great risk. Because all those people have hopes, all those people want to work, want to take something for themselves, and want to have a place. And for the governments, for all the governments, it's a great challenge, because they have to provide, they have to organize the systems, and there are no systems there. I mean, there is no clear form of control. For example, how could you run a country if you're not able even to register all your population? Like in Africa, only 60% of all people are actually registered. I mean, you know who they are and they have an ID. How could you run a country if you don't have a means to actually follow and collect taxes and see who paid and who didn't pay and so on? And for all these things, while it's an issue of policy, it's also an issue of information, of gathering the information, of controlling the information. That means digitalization. That means information systems that can support the state and should support the state. And there is almost nothing in the entire Africa. And this is, on one hand, a fantastic opportunity for all the IT industry in anywhere in the world. But let's consider as well that it's not just the government who's needing it. There are a lot of companies who are now growing, who are doing their accountancy on paper. And in 5 years or 10 years, they will want to have a small software of accountancy. They will want to have some website on which they can present themselves and so on. And we are talking about tens of millions of companies like this, SMEs, who are not now out of the informatized, digitalized world. And they will be there in 5 or 10 years. So in all this, I'm seeing a great opportunity of all the IT. And well, there are a lot of companies, a lot of countries present there. Well, you see US, you see Germany, you see Japan, you see China, and so on. They go there, they're present there, physically present there. They push systems towards the government, and they're doing stuff. While we, Romania, we are actually nowhere there in the space. But let's compare ourselves with a model which is more close to us geographically, but even in terms of size, even though Estonia is a very interesting case for me, and it's surprising, and sometimes I get a bit envy of Estonia being present everywhere in Africa, and the internationalization of the Estonian IT being raised at the rank of national priority for the government of Estonia. Actually, the president of Estonia, the prime minister of Estonia, the Ministry of Exterior of Estonia are selling on behalf of the Estonian companies to the states in Africa. Actually, the companies of IT companies in Estonia are signing the contracts of tens of millions with the hand of the prime minister, of their prime minister. This is what a small country, a very small country, much smaller than us, can do with a will. And after all these years in which, well, I wanted to do something for this space and be able to find a way to enter, I've actually last year managed to get in a relevant way there. At that point, I've established a relation with the government of Rwanda, which is still going on. It's a consultancy program which started with an evangelism on the extension of a technical committee of Type 3, the technology that our company is mostly working with. And since then, we have moved on, and I've been 6 times in various countries in Africa, met a lot of people, government, private industry, went to conferences and so on, and get to understand the environment. the logic, what goes and what doesn't go, what the people want, what the people need, and so on. And what I'm thinking now is that we, as Romania, as a Romanian IT industry, can and should put the internationalization of the Romanian IT towards Africa and towards the other developing countries as a national priority, that there is a lot of room, even though we might not have a lot of solutions or mature solutions, but we do have the wits, we do have the agility, we do have the knowledge, and not just the base technology knowledge, we have the knowledge of architecture, we have the knowledge of methodology, we have the knowledge of business and thinking in terms of business and process management and so on, that we can combine together so that we can, in a relevant way, provide help for the governments first, and then for the private industry in those countries. And from then on, what we are working on, and what we are actually working on in the Cluj IT cluster is developing a strategy for this internationalization. We are talking also with our ministries, which are quite happy of us doing this work. We are going to do a first economic mission in November in the East Africa, in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, where we have better relations for now. And we'll move further in the next year in other countries in the West Africa and so on. We have to learn a lot about what's going on here and what's going on there. But we see a tremendous opportunity, an opportunity that will only grow, but it's a window somehow. So we have to catch it while it's still open. And I hope, and I believe, that in the next years you'll hear a lot about what we are doing actually in Africa. And I hope that we'll do the developing of our industry in Africa with some of you in the future years. Thank you.